You're listening to the Running for Distance podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Gilbert, and I'm excited that you're here to journey alongside me today as we lace up the shoes and journey through life, running, and all things in between, each and every week. Now, let's head down the trails and see what's in store in this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome to Running for Distance podcast. This is your host, Anthony Gilbert. I hope you are doing well today. Coming to you live from formerly known as the Scarecrow Runner podcast, but is now Running for Distance. We'll get into that here in just a minute. Speaking of the Scarecrow Runner podcast, we are coming up on almost a year of doing these podcasts. This is my first one that I've done solo in almost a year. It's hard to believe that it's been almost a year since I started the project. And I would call it a project because it was the week before the pandemic really kicked into high gear. March 4th, 2020, I recorded my first episode. Basically, kind of the background of who the Scarecrow Runner was and who I am and kind of my passion and my desire of this podcast going forward. It definitely took a turn that I didn't expect. I just started. That's the thing, is you just have to start. You have to just go out. Take the first step, right? When we run, sometimes you don't know where you're going to end up, right? And I often tell people when they ask me, well, how do you start? Lace them up and just go out the front door and just start. Start somewhere. You have to lace it up. You have to get started, one foot in front of the other, forward progress. And so you just have to start. And that's what I did. I started the podcast, didn't really know what I was doing, was learning on the fly. But that's the thing, is you start. And then I was like, man, how do I get an intro? How do I get all the music? What do I do? Didn't really know. I've learned a lot in the last year. It's been quite a ride. Recorded a couple episodes by myself, and ever since then, I have had guests on every single week. I was really excited, and I was kind of overwhelmed too, because it's like, man, I had a ton of people that I was asking, got them on the show, and before too long, guys, I had a backlog of recordings, and people were like, when is my episode coming out? And I was like, guys, it's not going to come out probably for 6 or 7 weeks. They're like, what? Yeah, I literally, at one point, I had 12 weeks of recordings backlogged because I was just recording one after another, getting as many as I could so that I just had constant people in the queue, and I could just plug and play. I could put somebody in there. I felt bad, though, because sometimes you record something and it was kind of like right after they got done with a race, and then their podcast didn't air for a couple of months, and it's like, that's old news now. So I allowed my queue to dwindle, and towards the end of the summer, I allowed it to kind of disperse and just depleted it all, and started just recording, 1 or 2 people here and there, and had 1 or 2 in the queue. That's a lot more manageable than 12. Because I had all these recordings saved on my computer, and then I had to go back and edit it all. That took a lot of time. That took a lot of effort. Rather than when you only have 1 or 2, no big deal. But when you have 12, 14 sitting there, it's kind of a big deal. So got started in May 2020. Didn't know what to expect. And like I said, I just started and got things going. Had a bunch of awesome guests. I've had a lot of great conversations. I've had some that went, okay. Because, sometimes you just have natural chemistry with other people, and some people it's a little bit more effort to try to get conversation started, to get them to talk. Not everybody's a talker. I am fortunately a talker. Sometimes I need to just shut my mouth and listen. But there are times where you have to talk and get the person to talk, or sometimes you have to talk for them because they're not really giving you a lot of information. You got to probe a lot. So, that started off, and things just started moving in the right direction. Had some friends on, and then I started to, kind of move into a different direction with people I didn't know, and that became a lot of fun. And then I lost my job in May, and it really started to get interesting. And, I honestly used this podcast as a form of therapy. I decided that, it was going to keep me keep my interviewing skills intact so that when I was ready for interviews for a job, I was not scared or timid. I was able to hold my own, right? So I kept it going. It kept me preoccupied. I was working on projects around the house. I was doing this podcast. I stayed busy, guys, during being laid off and looking for work during the pandemic. And so it's been a good combination. And then in September rolled around, I was able to land another job, and then things started to get really busy really fast for me. And so then the podcast fun started to die off a little bit because I didn't have the time to invest in a lot of discussions with people. I couldn't really spend a lot of time, the extra time, interviewing guests. And so to make that long story short, just had to start picking and choosing and just record when I could. Wrapped it up in 2020, the week of Christmas, with Lauren. Had a great time, great discussion with her. And it was just kind of fitting that that was the last podcast of 2020. And then I took some time off. I just needed some time to just rest, right? Kind of a sabbatical of sorts. And I just wanted to kind of come into 2021 with a fresh focus, just fresh everything. I did contemplate at one time of, shutting it all down and say, you know what? The podcast was fun while I was unemployed, and it's just becoming too much effort, too much time. So I took some time off just to kind of refocus and just to refresh myself and to see if I still wanted to do it. Here I am doing a solo podcast tonight because, well, my next guests aren't until tomorrow night and then Tuesday, and I've got some people lined up. But I need to put a filler in here. So last week, I had my friend and former roommate Wade Haas. Had a great interview with him. Enjoyed it. We talked about a lot of different things, not just running. We talked cooking. We talked life. We talked kids, marriage, and families, and challenges that we've faced through our life, and not knowing if we want to continue running. And Wade lost a lot of his passion in college, and now he's starting to get that passion and that desire back to get motivated to run again. And it's really encouraging to hear my friend get that fire going. And so I know that he's going to do a great job. I know it's going to come back. It's going to be a slow process for Wade. It's a long haul for him. I just was texting him earlier today, asking him how things were going and if he started any programs. And he said he's probably planning on starting some jogging next week. But for the short term, he has been walking every evening. Guys, that's a huge start. To go from nothing, you're not gonna run right away, right? So he's gone from nothing to where he's walking every night. He's acclimating his body. He's getting time on his feet, whether it's running or walking. He's starting, and he has started the journey, and I'm excited to see where it takes Wade. I don't expect him to be the competitive firecracker that he was. I mean, he was a beast in college, guys. He kicked my butt in every race. He was fast. He was a sprinter, but then he transitioned into this, in college we ran anywhere from 4-mile races to 5-mile races generally. So it was an 8K, oftentimes a 4-mile race or an 8K was our distance. And so he had more stamina than I did, and he would just roll past me. Now, granted, I did beat him and my friend Mike and my friend James and all our other teammates in the last race that I ran in college, and that was my very first half marathon, and that was a fun, interesting experience. I had never ran that far before. I mean, even in all the training that we did, we usually would go out and run 8, 9, 10 miles at the most, and this was, a half marathon's 13.1 miles. So up in Baldwin City, Kansas, in December of 1994. Okay. December 1994. I believe it was December 5th, 4th or 5th. It was about 28 degrees, blowing snow. And I went out and I ran a 1 hour and 38-minute half marathon. Still to this day, that's my PR. It's amazing to think that was my PR. I've come within 4 minutes of that time, but haven't ran that fast since. Of course, I haven't trained for a half marathon like I did in college either. So, but I beat everybody on my team, and that was my last collegiate race, period. I didn't run anymore in college. We won't talk about all those bad decisions that I made, but I ended up going home, and then I ended up being a non-traditional student, finished up with my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree in management. And, as they say, the rest is history. But that didn't stop me from running, right? I continued to run. And so it was encouraging to hear Wade talk about how, he lost the desire to compete. He lost the desire to run because it was no longer fun. And, that often happens to a lot of us. We get burned out, right? We lose our focus. We lose our desire to do it. Happened to me after I did my 100-miler last year at Pumpkin Holler 100. I was beat up. I was already telling myself when I was finishing up my training before the race that I wasn't going to run long distance anymore. I was done. I needed to take a break and I needed to rest my body. And after the 100-miler, I was like, you know what? I am done. I am finished running these races. This is stupid. My body is beat up. Who wants to put themselves through this? You're ridiculous. You're stupid if you think this is fun. We all say that during our races. This is dumb. Who thought up of this crap, right? Who does this crap to themselves? We're obviously a mental case. And so, I didn't want to run anymore. I got burned out. I really did. And then training this last year, coming back from that, I didn't have really any desire. I ran during the pandemic this last year. Of course, we're still in the pandemic, of course. But all the races pretty much were canceled after March. I ran the snake run here in Tulsa, 3-hour snake run. And that was the last race that I did for the spring. Then everything turned virtual. So I did the great virtual race across Tennessee, and then I did a race across Oklahoma. Those things kept me kind of engaged, but it became more of a chore, right? I'm having to log this mileage and put all this mileage in. And it just became like a job again, to where it's punching the clock, get the miles in. I had to average so many miles per day to get that. And guys, when it's like that, it becomes no more, for me, it becomes no fun when I'm having to log X number of miles per day to keep my average so that I would stay ahead of the vultures. That was fun, and it was challenging because you didn't want to get caught by the vultures, right? But I just got tired of putting in the same mileage over and over and over all day long, every day, because I wasn't working, and so I'd go out and run. Some days I'd run 3, maybe 4 times a day. I'd go out and do 3 or 4 sets of 3 miles. I was breaking my long runs up into multiple distances just so that I knew I could get the mileage in, because I personally didn't want to go out and run 12 miles or 14 miles in one swoop. I was burned out. So to try to make it more manageable, more bearable to handle, I went out and broke it up, 3 or 4 times a day at 2 or 3 miles a pop. It wore me out. It was a lot of miles. It was a lot of repetition. But here's the thing. Even though it wasn't, 12 miles at one time or 14 miles at one time, whatever it might be, it was still time on my feet, and I was still putting the miles in. And so it translated into almost the same type of training as I was doing for my 100 the year before, the summer before. Still getting the same exact mileage as I was doing for my 100, except I wasn't training for 100. I really had no desire. So that kept me going through the summer, but I was kind of burned out, and I was getting to where I was tired. But I wanted to do something to kind of reward myself for all the hard work. And when I saw live races come back this last fall, the Bad Dog 100 in Dixon, Missouri, I actually signed up initially to do the 100-miler. But then I was like, no, I haven't put the amount of time on my feet and the training that I really want to put in to get a 100-miler down. I just didn't feel confident enough. I had some hesitation. You start doubting yourself, and then you're already putting yourself in a dark spot of questioning. And it's not that I couldn't have gone out and done it. I'm glad I didn't, though, now when I talk back about it, because my feet got beat up from all the gravel. And, we'll talk about that here in just a second. That race was a beast. Gravel roads, and it rained for like 8 hours. And for those of you that are listening that have heard me talk about it before or even ran it with me, you know what I'm talking about. Cold rain, heavy torrential downpours, for 6, 7, maybe 8 hours, off and on for sure for 8 hours. But yeah, the first 4 or 5 hours was ridiculously cold and wet. First race I've ever ran with a poncho on, and I wore that poncho almost, gosh, for the first 4 or 5 hours. Went through 3 or 4 changes of clothes in the first 20 miles. I was already through all of my clothes, and I'm like, this is stupid. I'm wet. I'm cold. I don't want to be here anymore. That's just how I felt, and I was burned out. I was tired, and I was ready to go home. I was beat up, but I wanted to finish it. I wanted to accomplish something that I had set out to do. Instead of a virtual race, I wanted to do an in-person race because in-person racing had been shut down. All the big races, whether it was the London Marathon or the Boston Marathon or Oklahoma City Marathon, any of the big races were shut down. Trail races, most of them continued. Now, a lot of them were canceled or pushed to later in the year, and then they ended up canceling anyways. But the bad dog was an accomplishment because I wanted another buckle. I wanted to prove that I could do it again. I'd ran a 100-miler. I'd ran the 50-mile distance going towards 100 miles, but I had never ran a true 50-mile race. So I wanted to get that off my bucket list. And so I did it. And then, I took some time off. Took, a week or two after that to just kind of decompress, rest, and kind of refocus. I dropped the mileage in December. I think I ran 20 or 25 miles in December, and I was done. I didn't care about any more mileage for the rest of the year because I needed to rest myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so that kind of wrapped up 2020. So I totally can relate to what Wade was talking about in our podcast last week of just being burned out, not having the desire to do it anymore, and then just taking time off. But Wade has been out of running for 24 years. Yeah, this is coming up on the 25th year that he has not been running. It's a long time. I haven't been off that long. There's been a time where I took a year, maybe 2 years here or there with very little running in it. There may have been, 100, 150 miles worth of running for the year tops, but I've never completely shut it all the way down. So I can't completely relate to Wade, but I do know where he was coming from on being burned out. So for those of you that might be feeling burned out or that you've gone through that and you can relate to it, I hope you can. It's challenging. It tests you mentally and physically, emotionally. You've got to get yourself ramped back up. You got to get back on the horse and you got to ride. But if you've been gone away from it for so long, you got to retrain yourself all over again. You got to put the miles on the feet, on the body. And that body's got to get acclimated again, right? Wade's body is not used to the beating. So he's going to have to ease back into it, which he's doing with his walking, which is phenomenal. January, I really contemplated about the podcast and where I wanted to go with the direction of that. Also kind of tying it into my YouTube channel. And, I really was wondering, should I shut things down? I didn't know what I wanted to do. I at one point was like, yeah, I'm just going to stop doing the podcast because I started working on the YouTube channel and really was wanting to put a lot of time and effort into that because I love doing video editing and rendering and just being creative in that aspect. I was like, I can always do the podcast, but doing videos and editing and capturing stuff, love it. So I started investing more time in the YouTube channel, and hence why I've started growing that following and growing subscribers and, just building content and building relationships with other YouTubers. It's a great environment. It's a great place to meet other runners. It's a great place to meet other people doing the same thing. You can collaborate. Brian Rosser, if you're watching or listening, you've inspired me in a lot of ways. We did a podcast together. You inspired me. You motivated me. Same with you, Chris Furlong. We had a podcast together too. And you inspired me. You motivated me when I wasn't really feeling like doing things. Brad Lord, Martin, Rato, you guys all inspired me. And, run free and strong, Rato. Martin's at the Determined Runner, Goku Runner, Jeremy. You guys are phenomenal. Hats off to all of you guys that have done it. I love interacting with you guys. Can't forget West Virginia Running Dawn. You're another one that I follow, and you inspire me as well, my friend. So, but I've gotten to really enjoy talking to you guys and interacting and collaborating on different ideas on YouTube. And, there's also Ultra Running Steven out there, and then also Anthony, who's going to be on the podcast. He's out there. Guys, there's so many of you out there. I can't even give everybody props. I want to, but I can't. But here's the thing, you start and you just do it, and you start and you collaborate and you talk about things and you learn different things, and man, it's just a beautiful thing. And you just start. It's a great community, and I've loved just interacting with everybody. So that's where I kind of started to shift, is starting to do the YouTube thing and letting the podcast kind of rest and kind of just put it on the back burner and see how it went. And I was out running one night a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I really want to rename the podcast, but I'm going to wait on that. But I can definitely rename the YouTube channel. And people have asked me, why did you change it? You were the Scarecrow Runner. Here's the thing, guys. Scarecrow Runner. Not everybody can relate to the Scarecrow Runner. With me being originally from the state of Kansas, and this is kind of the backstory real quick on what the Scarecrow Runner was all about. I was from the state of Kansas, and if you do recall the movie Wizard of Oz, one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the main characters was the Scarecrow. My parents often made references to us kids, my brother, my sister, and I. Not necessarily directly, but, there were instances that was directly. My sister was Dorothy, my brother was the Tin Man, and I was the Scarecrow. Is kind of how the monikers that they tagged with us. And being from the state of Kansas, you've got fields of wheat and corn. You've got scarecrows everywhere. And I'm a runner, and I was like, what? Scarecrows are associated with the state of Kansas. I'm a runner, so I'm going to be the Scarecrow Runner. And it stuck. And it was a great start. But as I've progressed as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, as a social media influencer, I have a pretty large gathering following on Instagram, and I had a large following on Facebook, and I dropped a lot of people off of that because Facebook was more personal, and I just wanted to keep personal, right? I've really adapted and really have learned a lot of stuff, and the Scarecrow Runner was great for a long period of time. And so I started thinking, I need to rename it, and I need it to be something that's not just about me. I want this to be about the people that are listening, the people that are trying to learn stuff. And I didn't know what I wanted to call it. I threw some names around in my head, just didn't stick. How many of y'all know when you go running, a lot of times that's when you do your thinking, your processing? Me for sure. I do a lot of my thinking when I'm running. And I was out for a run a couple weeks ago, and it fell into my head, really. I was like, man, what do I want to call my YouTube channel and my podcast? And the phrase "running for distance" just came to me, and it stuck. And so as soon as I got home from my run, I got up, got my laptop open, pulled up YouTube, and I searched "running for distance." No channels called "running for distance." I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I'm going to call it, running for distance. And here's why, guys. Running for distance, whether and this is kind of my intro for the podcast, whether we're running 1 mile, 10 miles, or 100 miles, we're always running for distance. And it really stuck with me because that's true. Whether you're running 1 mile or 100 miles, you're running to accomplish something. Now, granted, I know Brian Rosser and I talked about it. Mileage is just a number. It's about time on your feet and about going in and getting it done. You don't have to necessarily gauge your workouts based on actual miles, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're going out and running, you're logging mileage. Whether you're going out for a 45-minute tempo run or, a 4-hour run, and you're not logging it as miles, you are still running for distance because you are going to cover distance during that run, whether it's 1 mile or 100 miles, right? So running for distance really clicked. And then I was like, people can associate running for distance. That just resonates with people. And it also makes it easier when people are doing searches on YouTube or other social media platforms, running for distance. Well, when I'm looking for running content, running is one of the first words that I enter in my search, right? Running a half marathon, running an ultra, running for distance, distance running, those types of keywords. Well, those are triggers, right? Those are going to trigger and drive traffic. And what better way to drive traffic than to have something on there that someone can plug in and search and find your channel and your videos and your content to help them. So that's where it stuck. Running for distance. I don't think it's going to change ever again. I think running for distance is going to be it going forward, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on the podcast, whether it's my Instagram channel. I don't care. Running for distance. It's here to stay for now. Okay. And maybe a year from now, I'll have a different feel. I'll feel differently about something. But for now, it's going to be running for distance. And I hope that you guys like it. I have gotten, sorry guys, someone must be thinking about me because my nose is itching. And that's one thing when I'm doing video, everyone can see everything that I'm doing as long as I don't pick my nose, right? So, but yeah, running for distance. I've had a lot of great feedback from friends and other people saying, man, I really love that name. That's awesome. And so yeah, good stuff. And so, my training has ramped up. I signed up for a bunch of races in 2021. I had the ultra sign up bug. Literally, it's dangerous to go on ultra sign up. For you that run ultras, you know what I'm talking about. When you go on ultra sign up, you find all the races that are out there and you start circling ones that look like ones that you want to run. There's ones that you may have never run before and you want to run that one. There's ones that you've run before that you want to run it again. And ultra running sign up is like a drug. You get on there and you start registering for races, you start spending money, you get yourself in trouble. It's like a drug, like I said, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous, especially late at night, lack of sleep, or when others are pressuring you, peer pressure from your friends and other people that run. But ultra running sign up. So yeah, I got on there and I started looking around, and lo and behold, I found some races I wanted to do. Now, granted, some things have changed since I signed up for all these races, and I hate that. But it's life, and we'll see what happens, right? We'll take one day at a time. So I signed up for 3 races initially. I signed up for the Alpha Dog 40, which is in Pretty Prairie, Kansas. It's about an hour from where I grew up, in Reno County, Kansas. A 40-miler on the rolling hills in the Flint Hills. It's going to be a fun race. That's the first weekend of March. And right now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to run that race or not. I know I could go out and do it. I know I can go out and I can put the mileage in, and my body's going to probably be pretty beat up. I haven't put in a lot of double-digit runs recently. I've been putting in about 1 double-digit run a week for the last month. So I do have that going for me. But 2 of my boys decided they wanted to play soccer this spring. Last year, spring soccer was canceled due to the pandemic, so they didn't play. And they didn't play in the fall either. And then they're like, we want to sign up. We want to play soccer. Well, as we all know, soccer season for most states is on Saturdays. Occasionally Sundays, but most instances Saturday. And usually the first game is the first weekend of March. Yay for me. So we'll see what happens. But here's the thing, guys. I put family first. Always try to. I always try to. So if my sons have a soccer game on that first weekend of March, March 6th, if they have a soccer game, I'm not going to run that race. Here's the other bad thing about that, though. When we sign up for soccer, the season starts the first weekend of March. I've coached for the league many times the last couple of years. I'd say almost 100% guaranteed that the season's going to start the first weekend of March. and we will most likely have a game. Now, granted, there are times where we don't have a game the first week and we have a game the next week. Just depends on how the scheduling lines out. But as far as schedules go, we never know what the games are until the week of the first game. So I'm literally going to go into the first week of March, probably March 1st, and not know if I'm going to run the race that following weekend. That really puts a cramp on scheduling because it's like, I want to go ahead and plan the trip, but I don't know if I'm going to be running the race. So there's that wild card. How's that for fun? Then in April 24th, the Flat Rock 101 50K up in Independence, Kansas. It's a trail race, 50K trail race. That one's literally going to kick my butt. I know it. If 12 miles kicked my butt last weekend, 50K will kick my butt. And it's definitely a technical course. It's challenging. I know people that have ran it, and they said it's a beautiful course, but it's very challenging. That's likely to be another soccer weekend. That's strike two. The third race that I signed up for, Possum's Revenge, May 22nd, 56K down in Texas. It's a trail race. Now, it's not going to interfere with soccer. But I don't know. We'll see. That may be the one that I have to end up running just to prove, not prove, but just to, I guess, just satisfy the racing side of things and to recoup. I spent money. Most of the races were discounted, but, it might be kind of that sweet redemption of being able to at least run one of the three. I don't even want to think about just running one of the three. I signed up for all three, and I want to run all three of them. We'll just have to pick and choose, right? Sometimes you just have to do that. But granted, it's not that I'm not getting to race this year at all. Last weekend, I ran in the Greenleaf Trail 12-miler, the Greenleaf Trail race. It was over in just north of Muskogee, Oklahoma, and at the Greenleaf State Park. Beautiful course, very technical, and very epic conditions. Pouring down rain, mud everywhere, rocks and roots everywhere that you stepped. You couldn't see the rocks or the roots most of the time because of the mud. You had sloped hills where you're running with the slope going to your right at, we're talking at like a 25% grade, incline, decline, whatever you want to call it, 25% grade. You're running straight and the hill's going at a 25% grade against what you're running and trying to keep from sliding down the hill. It was challenging. It was fun. It was epic. I rolled my ankle twice and that beat me up, and then I couldn't do all my workouts this last week because of that. And here I am on the eve of another race tomorrow, the Ancient Trail Trek. It's a 15K. Now, it's a trail run, but it's not technical. It's just rolling hills. And granted, there are rocks. There are some roots. It is trails. Guys, it's a beautiful course. It's flat in some areas, overlooking the Keystone Dam area over in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. It's about 15 minutes from here. So it's a local race, nice trail run. I look forward to it. It's going to be fun. I ran it last year. I wasn't quite in condition to run it due to an injury, and so I dropped to the 10K last year. My goal tomorrow is to go out and just destroy my time from last year and go out and be able to run the whole thing and have no issues. So that's kind of my motivation. I'm going into that one is redemption, right? And so we'll see what happens with all the races going forward. I don't know if the races in March or April are going to happen for me. They may not happen due to COVID. Who knows? We just got to roll with it and adapt to what's going on. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I'll take it one day at a time, guys, as I always say, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, forward progress. So we'll just take it as it comes, just like any other ultra race. Whatever you're dealt with, you deal with it and you move on. Just time on your feet and relentless forward progress. That's the name of the game. That's the key. So let's see here real quick. So tomorrow I'm running that trail race. And when you're listening to this, it will be tomorrow. It'll be Saturday. Tomorrow or Saturday, today, Rocky Raccoon down in Huntsville State Park in Texas. My friend Laura Eriks, my friend Justin Turnbow, and many others are going to be running the Rocky Raccoon 100. Justin ran it 2 years ago and did not finish, so he is out for vengeance and revenge on that course. Laura, she's going to go out and try to do her best and finish that race. And then my friend Rem from our running group for Fit to Endure under Coach Cliff Pittman, he is doing the last skier standing in Jackson, New Hampshire. So it's not a last runner standing, it's a last skier standing. That sounds like a really cool race. And so good luck to all of you guys that are running in your events tomorrow. Good luck to everybody that is running a race this weekend, or whenever you're listening to this, if you're running a race that weekend or coming up. I wish the best, and I would love to hear from you guys what you guys are doing, what you guys have accomplished, what you guys have plans to do. I know several of y'all, Dawn, Steven, Rado, a lot of you guys, even Brian Rosser, have plans to do some races this year, and I'm excited to see what you guys do. And so for those of you that I don't know as well and that are listening or watching, I would love to hear from you guys and love to see, in comment-wise, what you guys are doing, but also would love to see video content of what you guys are doing, because that's going to be epic. Look forward to it. So this weekend, though, like I said, Ancient Trail Trek 15K is on the schedule for me. I'm feeling pretty good. My ankle's feeling better. I think I'll be able to go out and manage a 15K. May not be 100% to go out and run, but I'm going to go out and get the mileage done one way or the other. So it'll be a grind, but I'll get it done. Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. Yes, one of my favorite events because my team's in it. That's right. The Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not a bandwagon. I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. So it's not just because they won the Super Bowl last year that I'm a fan. No. I've been a Chiefs fan since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they would say. I've got pictures of me at a Chiefs game when I was like 3 years old. And that was the last time I had been one up until 2 years ago. Love watching the Chiefs play. Patrick Mahomes, phenomenal athlete, going up against many would call him the GOAT, Tom Brady. I personally don't like Tom Brady. I'm not going to get into it on here, but I just don't like Tom Brady. I hated the New England Patriots. Now he's on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and so it's TB on TB. I'm going to play Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and I'm pulling for you, Chiefs. Of course I pull for my Chiefs. Picked the Chiefs to win by a field goal in overtime. So that's how 31-28 is my prediction. I know this is a running channel, but it is sports related, and so it's one of the biggest sports weekends of the year. It's been nice to be able to have some football to watch, even though it's been really crazy with COVID and all the stuff going on. But it's still nice to see some football. But that's all I got for tonight, guys. I appreciate you all joining me for Running for Distance. Just wanted just to do kind of a recap show, where things have been, where things are going. Where I'm at right now in my training, just trying to ramp my mileage up, trying to get myself back into shape, building that base mileage, getting myself back into training mode. I'm trying to keep from being injured, trying to keep from being sidelined, trying to eat less because I'm eating more and more, and it's putting weight back on my frame, and I'm not happy about that because I haven't been as active, and of course cold weather being more dormant because you're not outside as much. You guys get the picture. So yeah, I'm wanting to put the miles on and not the weight. Name of the game, right? Put the miles on, not the weight. Unless you're going to be a ruck, unless you're going for a ruck, and then you put the weight on and you ruck. And so, but I wish the best to all of you all that are running races this weekend, or you guys are just going out and get some miles in. Don't forget, you are running for distance at some point in your life. You are running for distance at some point in your training plan. So guys, thanks for watching Running for Distance. I'm your host, Anthony Gilbert. I hope you guys got something out of this, and stay tuned because next week we'll have another guest in the studio with us, and I'll be able to share some great content going forward. And as always, I will see you guys down the trail. Take care, and we'll see you soon.